Okay, you already know Luca De Biase and Gigi Tagliapietra. Thomas, welcome. Thomas Madsen-Mygdal. The tall guy in the middle. Thomas has reached us from Copenhagen. He is an entrepreneur. He is trying to reinvent several businesses, from the printing business, the job search business, the web operation business with several startups. But he is also the founder of Reboot Festival, which is maybe the first big conference in the world, in Europe, which tried to tell new stories about internet and innovation across Europe and globally. And maybe if today there is state of the net, is also because of Thomas and Reboot, so thank you. Thomas, any thoughts about Luca's speech? Any suggestion?
I think it was a very inspiring speech. I wasn't really sure I understood the narrative, so I think for me the new narrative, right? So I think my reflection sitting in the back room was I think we have a general problem around complexity, that people in this room, all of us, are not willing to define a simple new narrative and take leadership for a generation, for our societies, because perhaps we're just way too excited about making everything very complex and non-actionable. That was my reflection, not really on the speech, but more like on is there a new narrative that's really simple for people that they can actually connect with? Or are we all just excited about making things so complex that you can't do anything?
Gigi?
Well, I think Luca just expanded what I tried to help with my presentation about music. The fact that we have to understand, not with the brain, but with the guts, that what we do is relevant. What we do is important. We had the feeling that the network is going to grow no matter what we do. That from the 60s on, we were defined as consumers. You think about it? Consumers? And how do we still talk about wealth in terms of consumer? And then we have music that are centuries, instruments that last for 300-400 years. Because what we do is relevant, is important, not just to us. I'm involved in computer security, and I want to share with you that the same happened to the security business, where at the beginning it was a selfish science. So I don't care what happened to you. I will build my castle and I'll survive. You don't? It's your damn beep problem. Now we understand that if you are not safe, I'm not safe. Because in the denial of service attacks, in the botnet and so, I care. If you're not secure, I have a problem. And if you don't wash your hands, I can be infected. So my actions change the world around me. I think that this is the big message that I got from, and it's difficult because it happens so fast that we don't have the time to stop and think. This is why I wanted to do this experiment with you, with the Bach cello suite. You stop for a moment from tweeting. That was great. Thank you. I was so, the adrenaline was so high I couldn't thank you enough for stopping tweeting and trying to think what happened right now. What I'm doing, what is meaningful, why am I doing this? Can this hurt anyone? You know? And then you realize that if you don't like a situation, if you don't like the dirt on the street, then you realize that what the other do are relevant to me. And this is what's happening right now. And it doesn't happen in a short time. So what we are doing today will affect my children's life. And this is what I have to bear in mind. So, after all, this is not new, because this is what the artisans did. When you go to a cathedral, do you ever think that the one who started the business knew that he couldn't see the end of it? I spoke to my violin maker, and he told me, my problem is that I don't know if I'm doing good stuff, because you can only know 100 years from now. So why you do it? He said, because that's the only way to do it. Okay? When you look at the Sagrada Familia, when you look at these great things, you have to keep on thinking that the internet doesn't pick up zip time. The effects of time are still there. This is what I think, and this is what I got from his talk.
Thank you. How can we spread this word? How can we teach people to be part of this great ecosystem and make them understand that they are a node in the net and they have to be responsible and have a vision over the ecosystem as a whole? Who will tell this? If media are failing, politicians are failing, teachers are failing, not because they want to or they have a bad behavior, bad attitude, but because the system doesn't fit anymore. So who will do this?
Us. The people in this room. I didn't want to say it because it's a long shot, but I guess in the last 15 years, and some here are pioneers of this new ecosystem. It's those that are building this environment that is going to fit in the environment that we used to call nature, that new nature with connections in which we are going to live, and in which we should become conscious that we live. In this domain, there is pollution, there is danger, there is consumption of resources that is not sustainable. But there are these pioneers that know it, that know that the internet protocol is commons, that know that knowledge is commons, that know that their own capability of innovate needs to be addressed to problems that are conscious of the logic of the ecosystem in which we are. So pioneers are going to create this new consciousness, just as the first ecological knowledgeable people were 50 years ago. I'm not saying that we are going to have an ecological thinking of the media sphere in 50 years. I hope we can get it before, because we already have that example. But the first narrative will come out from the innovators of the net.
Okay. Thomas, Reboot Festivals makes me think about rebooting the system. It was a festival about made by people who thinks they can reboot the system, I guess. But can we reboot a system which is working, which is us now? We shut down everything and start again. Is it the metaphor of what we are trying to do or we need to do?
I think the interesting thing about the Reboot was actually that it started in '98 as a kind of as web workers rebooting their mind once a year and learning new stuff, and then it slowly, as kind of the awareness and the kind of formation of the web people became, and consciousness grew, it became about rebooting everything, right? Yeah. It's so tough to reboot things, right? And it's so tough to imagining as revolutions, the big reboot, right? Or instead of all the small reboots all the time. It is flushing out the old. I think one of the major issues that makes me really worried at this point in time is that we haven't even flushed out the old. I mean, we have a massive failure in our financial systems, democracies, companies, education. I mean, everything is failing. We have a systemic failure. But if you ask people on the street what the narrative is, to your point, it's something about the banks, something lending some money. I mean, we haven't even really kind of dealt with all of it, right? We are not nationalizing the banks. We're letting them run as pseudo things. We're not dealing with stuff, right? And I think that's the issue, because if we don't deal with it, we can't let the new come, right? And we need the new to come. I'm currently involved in a company where we're trying to build a new bank. It's paradoxical that we're using all our money on supporting some old weird companies that doesn't make sense. But at the same time, where the solution should be the new. So I think that the real challenge is, and I mean, that's, even with, young youth unemployment, Portugal, 40% youth employment or something at this stage, we're still talking about that we should create jobs for them. Is it about creating jobs, or is it about that we failed to make them kind of formed human beings with a craft and a passion and something they want to do? Because we just taught them a lot of academic knowledge so they could become workers in a big corporation. They might have to become entrepreneurs, right? Or self-employed, or at least do something. So I mean, it's a massive failure, and it seems like we're not really dealing with it, right? We're not really even having real narratives for dealing with it, and that makes me really worried, because that makes it a very dangerous point in time, because you can argue for anything, because we are not really even sure what's going on, right? Politicians, I was in this meeting a couple of weeks ago where somebody who was the head of digitalization of the country was arguing for massive centralization of everything, because that was the digital way, and there was also some cost savings in it or something, right? And it was like, okay, that's a really dangerous idea. But he was like, oh, that was very efficient, and we should just kill all the small municipalities and then a much more efficient system. So I mean, it's a period of time that's really dangerous, I think.
Okay. So since this is the last panel, the last conversation, we try to get it as much as social as we can. So if you have questions or feelings, one question, okay. If you can stand up, maybe we can see you.
Yes. Do you hear me? Okay. We've talked about complexity a lot today, and we have seen that it's growing exponentially, and our understanding, there is a gap that exponentially separates our understanding from the complexity. But what is this complexity we are talking about? I mean, no one has defined it precisely. It's just a set of data and link between data. I don't think so. I think it's more words to describe reality means that we can describe it better. And so maybe the complexity is the reality is the supreme complexity. So if we have more words to describe this complexity, maybe our understanding will grow. So the net result is that we understand better the reality. This is the net result, not that the gap between us and the complexity is even more and more great. I don't think if...
Well, I could say that complexity is an approach. It's not what reality is. It's the way we try to understand reality. We used to, complexity is a sort of opposite to linear thinking. So we used to think linearly that something is the cause of something else. If you have A, then you will have B. And this was very good in the industrial context because that was linear. You put an input and then you have an output, you sell it, you get the money and go on. In the complex approach, which is in our mind, it's not in reality because reality is always the way we think about it, because Kant didn't pass in vain. In the complex approach, we think that every element is connected to every other element, and what happens evolves from the relationship between different elements that are interconnected. And so everything you understand as it was an evolution of. And that's why we understand complexity better using a metaphor that is related to biology, ecosystems, evolution, because that's the way we understand nature now. And my idea is that the internet is connecting brains, is creating a new environment for understanding and will merge with the idea of nature that we have.
Well, I think that we have a desperate need to turn the light on. So when we have something unclear in front of us, we are scared, okay? So we see the net and we say, no, okay, it's a matter of making it clear and defining new words, you know. I don't think so. You know, when the TV was invented, someone said, oh, okay, I know, it's the radio with something else. It's the movies at home. You know, they try to take something new and digest it and put it in images and metaphor and schemes we know, so we are no longer scared. Why politicians are doing such a huge amount of bullshit about the internet? Because they are scared to death about it. Because they don't know how to deal with it, and tomorrow we'll probably hear something about it. So they try to reduce in something they know. They don't accept the fact that we have to change completely the way of looking at it. Recognizing, I don't know what kind of complexity it is. I'm humbly, like when I walk in the mountains, I know I belong to that. I belong to nature. I'm a human being. You know, I'm carbon, as this morning we heard, I'm not silicon. And just this starts a new way of looking at things. I don't want to solve the equation. I know that if I try, like Newton and the Illuminism did, and the Enlightenment did in the past, was an arrogant statement. There is God, okay. He has a kind of allowance to do all sort of stuff. Then he gave me the world and I can do what I want because I cogito ergo sum. So I can do whatever, I can divert rivers, I can do stuff because EMC square, because I know the universe. Today we are saying something completely, totally different. Completely, totally different. And we have to look at it. And like when you listen to the music, I recommend you, Please, go to a live concert. You heard one instrument. Try to listen 95. Or if you listen to a Mahler symphony, you have 140 sometimes instruments in front of you. Do you think you can even scan them? Do you recognize? No. But do you feel it? Yes. You'll discover that you feel it with your body, with your hair, with your skin. This is the same approach to complexity. Recognize it. Understand that you are part of it. It's not something different that you have to digest and eat like something external, that you are just in it. And start thinking that what you do is relevant to the system. Is relevant to the system to make it better or worse. So if you want a better world, like you asked before, who has to do it? I do. I'm here. This is the reason why I'm here. And I'm not studying the Bourret of the Third, which I should. But why am I here? Because I think that I can be helpful. That what I do is meaningful. That what I do changes your life. And if your life is better, my life is better. And if your life and my life is better, then the life of my kids is going to be better. And this was not in the past. In the past, there was no way for me to really change the world. The new instrument you have, the new cello that we have is probably what we are talking about. And this allows us to make a change in what is around us.
Thomas? It's okay. Good definition of complexity. I'm good. Any more question? Yes, we have there one. First row. We have a question there. Prima fila, tavolino.
Hi, my question is to Thomas. You have talked about the paradox, the fact that we are not dealing with reality. And it's because we are not conscious enough of that paradox, or what is, in your opinion?
Good question. I think it deals a little with what you also were touching on in terms of our current media system's capability to have several narratives running at the same time, and also our kind of obsession with the narratives that are so subjective that they can easily be manipulated. I mean, we live in a world where there's no factual information about anything in terms of our societies, because everything can be spinned and debated and argued for being wrong information, or it should be interpreted in a different way. So I mean, you know, I think, you know, we don't really have the current capabilities to really grasp what's going on, because we are running a mass media system in a, you know, social participatory world with a lot of things going on at the same time. So I mean, I would love for somebody that was 24 years old or 48 years old or 72 years old in the audience to start the, you know, the next New York Times, the next new big publishing thing, right? I mean, I was in this startup weekend thing judging some startup, and I was really excited because it should be about media and about publishing and, you know, kind of all the reinventing that. And they were all pitching advertising platforms for selling goods online and something. And I was like, I thought we were going to reinvent media here, and how we deduce all the complexity in the world, how we tell the stories, how we understand things. But they're all the kids were more interested in how the local grocer could put some ads on Facebook or whatever. I mean, I think it is about starting to attack some of the deeper issues, and I mean, I give myself a hard time in terms of what I'm involved in entrepreneurially, whether we're actually attacking the deeper, profound things, education, media, etc. But it's all a question of timing, right? And I don't know. I'm trying to get better at timing. I've never been really good at it. And something just tells me that the timing isn't there yet. Things haven't gotten worse enough that we would actually really start working on it. But somebody in here should do it.
Pietro has a question. Un microfono, per favore.
So I heard that the best way to handle complexity is through a metaphor. And in one sense, I can understand when you're facing the complexity and you're trying to understand it. But I cannot stop myself wondering, when Johann Sebastian Bach wrote those wonderful pieces, which had an amazing amount of complexity inside, were they just following a metaphor or doing something else?
I don't think that Johnny wanted. I mean, he just had something in it. Like Stravinsky says, we are not composing, we are composed. So there is something outside us that tells us what to do. You have to listen and understanding that you are part of it. You are not different from what you describe. When I ask people if they like Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, and blah, 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 they say, no, I'm not good at classical music. And I say, classical music doesn't exist. It's an invention. What we call today classical music, at the time it was played, was actual contemporary music. If you were Vivaldi, couldn't play an old piece of music in front of the king. It was an insult to majesty. You had to play just new stuff. We just invented the term classic because at the end of the Romanticism, we thought that because the new stuff that was coming from those nerds like Mahler, like Wagner, like Stravinsky, it was something horrible. And so we said, let's stop this and let's make classical music so we can kick out all the guys. I don't think that Sebastian had to write a new piece of music every damn day because he was paid for it. So he didn't realize he was doing complexity. He was part of it. And because he was a genius and he was in sync with the world, he just expressed this complexity in his music. Then we listen to it. And we feel it. And we feel that it's something greater. Same as when we walk through the paintings of Matisse. You know, there is something that is way bigger than just a square on the wall with a frame on it. We feel it. We know it. It's like when they ask me, no, I can't sing, I'm tone deaf. No? People say, no, I can't. I don't understand music, I'm tone deaf. I said, no one is tone deaf. If you would be tone deaf, you wouldn't change the gears in your car. Okay? You wouldn't recognize people on the phone because you wouldn't tell if it's Luca or my wife. Okay? Because you are able to recognize sounds in space and in time. This is for you to survive. So you can be part of those vibrations. We say today we need metaphors. But 30,000 years ago, I tell you, the Aborigines were singing the land. Now, the Western civilized people say, no, you use Google Maps. You use technology. They were singing the land. And the white man died in a desert. And there is a monument in Melbourne about those explorers. And the Aborigines didn't understand because they were full of food, because the desert is full of food if you recognize it. And you just need to turn on the second song and you find water. And then you turn on the fourth phrase and you teach your kid to walk and sing. And then you realize that there is food there. But the white man didn't know. And so they died of starvation in the desert. So what I'm just saying is we have to recognize the beauty of people sharing their emotion together. This, I think, is beautiful. I personally think is beautiful. And when I see that people have a way finally to tell things, to say, I agree, I disagree, I have an idea, and I care, I care about you. When Paolo first introduced me to the blogging, I was a fanatic blogger. And then one day I received a message that says, I haven't seen you writing in the last 3 days. Are you okay? What's fun is that these people really cared about me. And that is fantastic. So he cares about me, and I care about you, and he cares about the other. And this is the network of life. Then we use it as a metaphor, but it's there.
So I think what you're touching on, that I think you also touch on, I think there's something interesting here in terms of the progress aspects, because one thing that is perplexing is that a lot of this is about reinventing old concepts, right? Renaissance, reinventing of old concepts in a new context, that we're actually going back in many ways, right? We're going back to, we're unfolding what happened the last 50 years or the last 100 years. And that just seems for people to be really difficult, because then we need to deal with, okay, what we were sold as progress wasn't really progress perhaps, or was it? And how do we, you're talking about the new music, the new story, the new narrative, the thing that looks forward. How can we deal with that if that's actually something that's from the past that we're reinventing? That people are doing local production of groceries in the cities and local craft, etc. I mean, we're going back, right? And it's just fundamentally really difficult for us, it seems, to go back. And how do we make that narrative something that's modern and progress? And I mean, knitting and DIY, etc. is obviously very sexy and hipsterish, but you know, so that's a good example of something how it becomes the new.
Okay, thank you, Luca, thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Gigi. Time's up.